Hi everyone, here is Ricardo Vargas and this is the 5 Minutes Podcast. Today I like to discuss done is better than perfect in the context of the projects. And why this is super important? Because of course, in a perfect world, it would be fantastic to say, oh, I deliver things that are perfect. So it's done and perfect. But we need to understand that this is most of the time simply unfeasible. It's just impossible because there is a lot of trade-offs you need to have in mind when you are delivering your project. And let me start telling you some ideas of that. The first one, we need to understand the cost of perfectionism. We need to understand that being perfectionist comes with cost. Comes with a cost, and I'm not saying just financial cost. I'm talking about costs due to delays, due to rework, due to over-engineering. So most of the time, we need to understand that there is a point where increase in the perfection of the product costs massive amount of money and time and improves the product just by a marginal rate. It's the law of diminishing returns. For example, let me give you two examples. If you are manufacturing, for example, a sound system, after a certain point in the quality of your sound system, the cost start to skyrocket to improve just a little bit on the quality of the sound. So instead of having, a speaker that costs $300 and is absolutely excellent, you go to a $30,000 that is better, of course, than the $300. But if normal people listen to these two speakers, there is a good chance that many of them will not identify the difference. It's the same as I tell people when people think about wine, for example. Sometimes a wine costs $10,000 more than another. Really, 10,000. And probably 99% of the people that drink wine will not recognize this advantage. So there is a point where, you start losing track of the actual value of what you are doing. And this drives me to the second point that is one of my favorite concepts in Agile. It's the concept of MVP, or minimum viable product. And why this mindset of MVP is so important. Most of the time, we want to create a product or a service that lasts forever. These do not exist. So most of the time, you need to be smart to create products that are good enough to get traction, and then you start improving this product. Because sometimes for you to release an MVP that is absolutely perfect, it will take you so much time that you just lose the opportunity. This is what is happening, for example, in AI. Are the current products on AI perfect? Of course not. But what, for example, OpenAI did? They release a product, and on the top of that result, they start testing waters and improving, testing waters and improving, testing waters and improving. And this is the concept of MVP. Because most of the time, if you want to release the perfect product, you will be late and you will pay a massive amount of money due to the loss of the opportunity to be, for example, the first in the market or to be a pioneer. And this is exactly the mindset that we see today in all technological products, in all startup mindset. So how you can get traction spending, few weeks and spending a small amount of money instead of just spending a huge amount and spending years to develop something to test if it will work or not. And this drives me to the third point, is the balance between quality and timeliness. Time to market is almost as important as quality. In a world that is super volatile, in a world that is changing in such a dramatic pace, get things done brings a huge amount of value. Sometimes it's much better to have it done than to have it perfect. And I'm not saying that you should produce garbage. This is different. It's to produce a product that is good enough to start. And from that point, you improve, the product gains maturity. It's like the first version of ChatGPT and the current version. Probably in 1 year from now, we'll see versions that will make the current version look very obsolete. But this is the evolution process. So we need to get ready. For example, one of the biggest advantages of ChatGPT comparing with other competitors in this field, it's how fast they were to be on the market and to have something ready, useful, and good enough to gain traction and to get people using. The fourth one, that is also for me one of the most important, is the impact of done on stakeholder trust. Look, people don't want to buy slide decks. People don't want to buy pitch deck. People want to buy things that will be done. The ability to execute. And this is why project management is becoming so important, because we are the ones getting things done. So it's super important, because what happens when I buy something that is not ready yet? One of the first criteria I use is who is behind that. Do I trust the people behind? Do I trust that specific stakeholder? Because maybe that stakeholder did not produce the best service, but the history and the trajectory of that creates a massive support for me to move on. And the opposite side is the same. I know, and probably all of you know too, people that are just, I would say, blah, blah, blah. You know, people that just say, oh, I'm doing this. And at the end, there is nothing ready. There is nothing. I will do this. I will release this. I will do that. And at the end, just nothing happens. So the impact of done, getting things done, has a massive support on stakeholder trust. I love working with people that are able to get things done. And this is an asset. This is an asset because sometimes people are so perfectionist. For example, you are writing a book and you are so perfectionist that you never, ever get it done. For example, just out of curiosity, I said this many times, I never listen my own podcasts. For example, I'm talking now from the top of my mind and I never listen to that. Why? Because if I listen to this, I will be trapped. And what will happen? I will start correcting. Oh, I didn't say this correctly. My English here was not very good. At the end, I will never be able to do that for almost 17 years in a row every single week. Why? Because it's not perfect. And if it was supposed to be perfect, it will be once in a year. And this is the relevance of getting it done. And finally, how to avoid this? So let me give you 3 tips. First one, priorities. Understand what is the priority. What is important? It's to deliver on that timeline or it's to deliver on this. Which kind of features, which kind of characteristics on the product are the most valuable one that you should put your focus? Second one, use time box technique. It means what is the best I can do in 2 weeks? It's not what is the best I can do. Because if you have 3 months, of course, and you are smart, you will produce something that is better than in 2 weeks. This is normal. But what happens? Imagine you crafting the perfect chocolate egg for Easter. And then your chocolate is so good that it's ready 1 month after Easter. So what's the point? What's the point? You creating the best Black Friday campaign that is ready 1 month after the Black Friday. And this concept is super important. So time box will help you on that. And finally, focus on what is the project ultimate goal. What is the target? What is the target? You know, imagine if you are opening a restaurant, you need to understand what is the ultimate goal of that restaurant. What people will come in for what? They will have a place that they want to enjoy their entertainment, or they want an efficient food because they don't have too much time and they need to come back to work. Did you see? They're both restaurants, but the priorities of one restaurant is very different from the other. And if you do not know that, you can create the most fancy restaurant with a value proposition that does not match. And you will remember, failure is much easier than success. There's much more possibility to fail. This is why sometimes you need to have things done and get ready. For example, if I was trying to create a perfect book, I would never ever release a book. And I had the opportunity to release 16. And why I did that? Because at some point you just need to release and say, yeah, and now I need to accept the criticism because it's done now. It's done now. The next one or the next version, I will improve that. And this is the mindset in this changing environment we are living in. Without that mindset of getting things done and be able to adapt, reinvent, learn, you will never be able to compete in this type of volatility. Think always about that and see you next week with another 5 Minutes podcast.